Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked hard on a problem? Thought about it again and again? Tried different solutions? And still nothing changed? You keep pushing. You keep trying. But the situation stays stuck. Now let me tell you a simple story. Because hidden inside this story is the real power of a focused mind. If you listen carefully, you'll understand how powerful the human mind becomes when it is truly focused. Years ago, a large cargo ship in a shipyard suddenly stopped working. The engine had completely failed. This was not a small machine. It was a massive industrial engine. The ship was carrying valuable cargo, and if it didn't reach its destination on time, the company would lose a huge amount of money. So the engineers immediately started working. They checked the electrical system. They inspected the fuel pipes. They opened different sections of the engine. Experts came and went. Hours passed. Still, nothing worked. The engine stayed silent. The atmosphere around the ship became tense. Managers were worried. Engineers were frustrated. Among all this, one worker had been quietly watching everything. He was just a regular shipyard worker, not an engineer, not an expert. He stood there silently for a long time, watching the situation. Then slowly, a thought came to his mind. He hesitated, because speaking to management was not easy for someone in his position. But finally, with a little fear in his voice, he said, "Sir, I know an old mechanic. He has fixed engines like these for many years. Maybe he could take a look." At first, the management ignored the suggestion. After all, trained engineers were already there. What could some old mechanic possibly do? But then one of the managers paused for a moment. They had already tried everything. So he turned back to the worker and asked, "Where is this mechanic?" The worker replied, "He lives not far from this shipyard." The manager sighed and said, "All right, call him. Let's try." After some time, the old mechanic arrived. He looked nothing like the experts around him. An old man, simple clothes, a worn-out bag hanging from his shoulder. He looked poor, ordinary. When people saw him walking toward the engine room, some of them quietly wondered, "What can this man possibly do?" But the old mechanic didn't react to any of that. He simply walked to the engine. He placed his bag down and started observing. He didn't rush. He slowly walked around the engine, listening, looking carefully, paying attention to small details others had ignored. For a few minutes, he said nothing. Then he reached into his bag and took out a small hammer. He stepped closer to the engine and gently tapped one specific spot. Took. Suddenly, the massive engine came back to life. The entire room froze. Engineers who had worked for hours stood there in disbelief. And the engine restarted with 3 small taps. A few days later, the company received the mechanic's bill. It was for 3 lakh rupees. The management was shocked. They sent the bill back with a message. "Please provide a detailed breakdown of the charges, so we can understand what we are paying for." Later, the mechanic sent another bill. This time it had 2 lines. Tapping the engine 3 times, 3 rupees. Knowing exactly where to tap, 2,99,997 rupees. Total, 3 lakh rupees. And beneath that, he added a short note. The real value was not in the tapping. It was in knowing exactly where the problem was. Now think about that for a moment, because this story is not really about engines. It's about how the mind works. Most people believe focus means sitting longer, removing distractions, working harder. But that's not real focus. That's just effort. Look at what happened on that ship. The engineers had effort. They worked for hours. They checked everything. Their attention was everywhere. But the mechanic did something different. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He focused on three simple things: listening, observing, identifying the exact weak point. He ignored 99% of the machine and acted on the one place that actually mattered. That is the power of a focused mind. Focus is not about doing more. Focus is about seeing clearly. Focus is the ability to ignore 99% and act on the 1% that truly matters. Most people give their attention to everything. A focused mind chooses carefully. It listens, it observes, and when it finds the exact point that needs action, even a small move can change something massive. Just like three quiet taps on a silent engine. That is the real power of a focused mind.